Welcome to Commander Central. Today we will be talking about 1v1 Commander and how it differs from multiplayer EDH. The primary difference being I don't really play it, and it's pretty much all Chris plays. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
And Chris is nodding his head. Yes, indeed, that is pretty much all you play lately. So, gentlemen, what is happening in your lives right now? Anything exciting? Chris just got done putting up a garage door all day today, which doesn't sound like something I want to do.
This is actually really easy.
Yeah, they are
It's a
pretty...
nice day for it, at least. Like, if you're going to
it
be
was
putting up a garage
beautiful.
door, having it be like 60 degrees and sunny in the fall, there's way worse ways to spend your day.
So I really thought on Sunday about taking a picture, just so all our listeners realize where we live, of the snow that we were getting in the middle of October.
That is Wisconsin for you.
It was still here Monday morning, too. That was the worst part.
And then Max was out way too late last night.
I was. In my
drinking.
typical Wednesday prep.
So I started getting drunk texts from Max at like 11 o'clock last night.
But
he was quiet today. He wasn't saying a whole lot digitally.
I got a message at like 6 o'clock. You coming to Growler, guys? Nope. Okay.
Austin goes, why doesn't he want to come? I'm like, it's standard night. He's playing standard.
Yep.
But, yeah, went and watched the Ducks play at the bar, so
Nice.
it was good.
Worst hockey team ever.
Oh, God.
How's their year starting?
Go
I haven't paid
Flyers.
attention at all.
They are in the second in the entire league right now, so they're doing really well.
All
Who's in
for,
first?
the Maple Leafs.
Go Maple Leafs. I don't know anything about hockey.
They're in Canada.
Oh.
Let's talk about games we actually play, since hockey isn't one of them. How were the games this week, Max?
They were fun, I guess. We had some interesting interactions.
We had a few. So there was one you talked about on Twitter, actually. You said you were going to bring up the specifics of, I think it was
the Toxic Deluge for 29.
Yeah. So that got the job done.
It did. I was playing my new Regna and Krav deck, and I was facing down. You were out of the game by this time.
I'd been bumped out.
So I was facing down a Riku deck and a green-blue Azuri deck. And the Riku deck wasn't really doing anything, but the Azuri player had 4 or 5 creatures, and I swung in with Regna for 4 in the air, and I looked at him like, how big is your biggest guy? And he's like, oh, like a 27 or something. I'm like, okay, I'll just Toxic Deluge for 29.
Because you've been gaining a bunch of life. So you were at,
I was at
like
65 life when I
was wondering if you were at like something with a numeral of 9 because you just wanted to make your life total even or something.
Nope, it cleared his board and he didn't have a response. He was tapped out. It was a...
And your Krav was big enough that
my
he would have
Krav was like a
survived.
30-30, or a 32-32.
So, yeah, that was interesting. I just heard it. I was like, at the next time I heard from someone like, Toxic Deluge for 29. I was like, what?
Ended up closing that game out a few turns later, but it took a while.
When you have the amount of life where you can just throw it away casually in a Deluge for 29, you probably should be winning.
Right.
That kind of seems like a deck that Dana needs.
There's a lot of triggers.
Yeah.
I almost decked myself. That's how many cards I drew in that game.
That's how you know that you're doing it right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a game where a player was going to get hit by a Master of Cruelties, and Gyrus brought it back. So he had milled it out into his graveyard, swung with Gyrus, and then did the Gyrus ability to bring Master of Cruelties back, attacking, and was going to hit the person to knock him to 1. But the player was playing a Samut deck who has Flash. So he goes to flashes in his commander. And now I was playing my Mono White Planeswalkers deck. And I'm like, well, I'm going to Swords to Plowshares that Samut before he can deploy the block. But I had a Staff of Nin in hand. So I'm like, oh, well, then I can just play because I was going to play it anyway. I was like, next turn I'll play Staff of Nin for the draw number 1. But I'm like, oh, and then I can finish him with the Staff of Nin. I can't pass that opportunity up. But he was not happy at me swordsing his attempt to stay in the game with the Samut. And then actually I wound up not needing to do the Staff of Nin because the guy that had swung with Gyrus had some way he wound up doing like 2 damage or something to everybody, I think. So he killed the guy anyway. But I'm like, I couldn't really feel bad about it. I mean, like, I get it that sucks when you think you have a way to stop. First of all, Massive Cruelties is not fun getting hit with. And when you think you have a way to prevent it and then having that get taken away, I get not liking that. But like, I couldn't pass it up. I'm in mono white.
Awesome.
I'm playing mono white Super Friends. I have to take the knockouts when I see them.
I would just look down and be like, "You're gaining the 4 life off the Samut or whatever. It's okay."
Actually, I said that it wasn't a sword; it was a path because he wouldn't have gained the life because I knew I could kill him with the staff. So it was a path, actually.
You did say you can get a land.
I did, right. I got pointed out that he could have gotten a land out of it. But I believe I did win the game at the end.
You did, yeah. Because
So-
you just kept making Elspeth tokens and we couldn't
Alpha
compete.
tokens, I think I had 2 Gideon emblems as well that gave my stuff +1/+1. And then I ulted Ugin, I think once or twice as well. Yeah,
I don't
Ugin.
remember that.
Poor threat assessment.
I had built up a decent wall, but yeah, I don't think anyone was fooled at all by the fact that I had an Ugin out. I just had got in position, so that was an interesting one to see. Max, any MVP cards you saw this week come down?
I'm going to have to go with a card from your new deck, Seize the Day,
That is my MVP card as well.
because your Saskia Exalted deck wrecked house all night long.
So we'll talk about that deck in just a minute. But yeah, Seize the Day, for those that don't know, is an older card. It's a sorcery out of Odyssey for 3 in a red. And it's basically a extra combat step for 1 creature. Well, it's many creatures you want to, but you only untap 1 creature, and then you get additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase.
Hey, Vigilance would be really good with that, you think?
Yeah, Vigilance, or if you're playing an Exalted deck where only 1 creature's attacking for the most part anyway.
Yep.
But it also has Flashback for 2 in a red, so essentially you can spend 7 mana to get 2 attack steps off 1 card. I don't think I ever changed it twice in a turn, but I think I played it 2 or 3 times that night, and I flashed it back at least twice, and it won me, I think, 2 games. So every time it came out, because Exalted triggers stack with extra combat steps for those that don't know the mechanic that well, so it applies all your bonuses, take your next combat step, and it applies them all again. So yeah, that was good. Mage Slayer did a lot of work in that deck as well, but Seize the Day was a great card.
So for that MVP card, I have one thing to say. Graveyard hate.
Yeah, right. It would have stopped me from at least flashing it back.
Yep.
So Max and I were talking about this, and Chris, if you make a deck, you can jump on board. So one of the things, this is like a long-term project we're going to do. Max built his Regnan Krav deck a couple weeks back.
Yep.
And I just built the Saskia deck, and I think we both like the decks and are intending on keeping them around.
For sure.
So what we're going to do is log. So like we have the original version 1 of the deck saved on our deck pages that we link every week in the show notes. And we're going to keep those original versions on there, and then we'll make a second deck list also in our accounts. That's what we'll use when we make changes throughout the next 6 months or however long this experiment goes on. And then we're going to log those changes as well and like just make some notes. So then at some point down the road, we're going to do another show, and we're going to come back and look at those decks and say, okay, here's where we started, and here's where it's at right now. 3 expansions later and 6 months or 7 months of playtesting, whatever it is. These are all the changes we've made. This is why we've changed them. This is where we're at, and kind of go over that full deck evolution over the course of a year or half a year, whatever it is. So yeah, we're going to have those on there, and that is our plan with those 2 decks. And if you build one in the near future, Chris, you can do the same thing, and we'll have a show down the road where we talk about like a full deck evolution like that over the course of that period of time. So come up with one. Build your Maze's End gate deck.
But that
now.
won't be like modifying it.
That's true.
It's
Don't-
meant to be
don't
bad.
be allowed to train. Yeah, that's true. Alrighty. If you want to find those decks or find us in any other way, how would you do that?
I don't know. How do we do that?
I think the internet is included. You need that.
Interweb.
Definitely the interwebs. You would just search for Commander Central on the Googles, and that's probably
The
it.
Googles.
The Googles.
You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. We usually respond quite a bit. I know lately we've been kind of lax on it, but we got a lot of stuff going on, so don't hate us if we don't reply immediately. Facebook, search us, CMDR Central. Don't really hear too much from too many people, except for Raphael. He likes to harass me on that one.
He does.
YouTube, you can find us CMDR Central. That has most of our shows and everything. And then you can find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
You can also find us on Patreon by searching CMDR Central. And we have a new Patreon. Sean, thank you for supporting us. He pledged last night.
No last name again?
I'm going to butcher it. I don't. There's too many consonants next to each other. I'm not even going to attempt it. And of course, if you do want to support us on Patreon, one of the key benefits you get is you get to join our chat server.
Yeah, we have our Slack is actually very active with a lot of people posting like deck lists and just talking about Magic in general. It's really active. I've been very pleasantly surprised with that. Even right now, like there's nothing new happening in Magic. There's no new cards coming out, and people are still really active there talking about Magic and EDH stuff. And when there's new cards spoiled, people are extremely active. There's a lot of chatter going on. That's worth your
$2. Yeah.
And it helps us keep the show on the air as well. So that is really appreciated.
You can also find us over at flipsidegaming.com. And they actually just released a new exclusive playmat line coming out. They call them Masterpiece Playmat, so it's going to be classic MTG art, or just classic art in general, it looks like. So it's some cool black and white, like Alice in Wonderland drawings. The dogs playing poker, you can get that as a playmat.
Nice.
A bunch of awesome art. I'm looking at the page now. It didn't load for me
no
earlier.
Commander Central playmat, unfortunately.
No.
That's only available for Patreon subscribers. However, they have a lot of cool stuff there.
They do.
And actually, one of our Patreon subscribers in the Slack was just talking about picking up squandered resources.
Correct.
Because one had walked off in a game or disappeared, or he lost it, one of those three. So we needed to buy a new one. He bought it through Flipside Gaming using the code, saved a little bit of money, and was really happy with the condition. So.
Yeah. And that code is CMDR when you check out, and all capitals.
All capitals apparently matters in that case. We have some contests going on this month.
Yes, so for Twitter, if you retweet any of our tweets that use the hashtag CMDR trick, I'm sorry I did not announce the hashtag last week. I know. We are giving away 2 core set sampler booster packs from, we think, 9th edition.
It doesn't say on them, which is super weird.
Along with the cool cardboard life counter from original Ravnica way back in the day with the Sisters of Stone Death art on it.
Yes, indeed. And I meant to put pictures of that on Twitter, and I didn't, but I did take the picture, so I'll post that. I will post that tonight, so by the time this comes out on Monday, it will have been posted on Twitter.
Well, it says copyright 2005 on the package, so.
So it could be, who knows, it could be anything.
And then for our Patreon supporters, the contest this month is we are giving away the Mindseas Commander 13 Precon.
Mm-hmm.
Still in the box.
All 98 cards?
All 98 cards. Wait, what'd you take?
Chris and I have been slowly pilfering. It'll be down to like 82 by the time this is done.
All the basics.
I got the Baleful Strix. Chris took the True Name Nemesis out of there.
I don't need a True Name.
I'll take the Soul Ring.
I don't need the Soul Ring either. I don't think there's anything in that deck I would need.
It's those two. It's like Baleful. Propaganda. There's Propaganda in there. That's
okay, yep, I'll take the Propaganda.
Yep. And there's a Sudden Spoiling in that deck, I'm pretty sure, as well.
I have like 3 of those.
Yeah. So as long as you are a Patreon supporter or join by November 1st, you'll be entered to win that deck.
All right. Sounds good.
Before we move on, I want to say congratulations to Chris for placing 3rd in a PPTQ last weekend.
Yeah, a modern PPTQ. What deck were you playing?
Standard.
Oh, was a standard one. What deck were you playing? Was that the
Boros Angels. Yep.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it was pretty good. The prize payout was 24 packs. I traded them in for Iconic Masters packs, so I got 8 Iconic Masters packs. Hunting, Horizon Canopy.
And did you get one?
No.
Oh.
First pack, Flusterstorm.
All right. Well,
second pack, Bloodghast. Third pack, Mana Drain. 4th pack, Vorinclex. And the whole time I'm just going, I just want a Horizon Canopy. I don't want any of these cards.
I bet you could probably turn those into a Horizon Canopy.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. What do you want Horizon Canopy for? What deck?
I just want it for Modern.
You just want one? Okay.
Yeah, we need them for our team. We got one of the guys is building humans, and he's missing like 3 Horizon Canopies. So I'm trying to find them for him.
All right. Well, yeah. Congratulations, Chris, for that.
Thank you.
And then this weekend, you guys are doing some 1v1
Two-headed giant.
Two-headed giant. So it's 1v1 rules using the MTGO rules, but it's two-headed giant, and you can't have any cards
overlap
between your 2 decks. So you
aside from basic lands.
Okay.
Yep.
So even like one Soul Ring, even one Crypt, if you're running Crypt.
It's unified, essentially.
Yeah. Yep. So what are you playing in that one?
Mogus, God of Slaughter.
Oh, all right.
I actually have my deck with me if you want to look at it later.
Yeah, I'll look through it. What's your teammate playing?
I'm not 100% sure, but I had brought up the idea to him to play Azorius, and then he brought up the idea of playing Lavinia of the 10th.
Oh, so you guys are just going to be like
straight up lockout.
Torturing people.
Yes.
One of the guys in our Slack is also playing in this, and he was talking about he wanted to try
Scarab.
Fire Song and Sunspeaker was his first go.
That was Tuesday.
He's like, I think I can make it work. I got it all figured out. It was Blake.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, I think I can make it work, and he sat down for like play testing for like 20 minutes. Like, yep, this isn't going to work. Nope, this is not going to happen. So he's looking for alternatives to Fire Song and Sunspeaker now. So this is kind of a good jumping on point to talk about some 1v1 Commander. And primarily we're going to talk about MTGO rules 1v1 because there's a bunch of different kind of small variants, whether it's French rules or Canadian Highlander or, I mean, obviously people play like regular Commander rules 1v1. We had a shop tournament probably 3 years ago that was 1v1 Commander just using regular deck rules.
I think that was longer than that.
Was it? Yeah, but which is a completely
Yep.
bizarre way to play.
Yeah.
Yep.
So MTGO does a pretty good job balancing it, and despite being online, that does see a lot of local play around here. So we want to talk about that a little bit because it winds up being an interesting way to play Commander. So first things first, we can maybe get some of the homework out of the way and talk about the differences between the ban lists and 1v1 and multiplayer Commander. There's quite a few, actually. I was a little bit surprised. Max, why don't you give us the cards that are allowed in 1v1 but are not allowed in multiplayer?
Yeah, so we compared the two ban lists. First thing I want to point out is, unlike the multiplayer ban list says, and cards like these, because it's a casual format, so like they give you an example and say cards similar to this should probably be banned as well. 1v1 is just, it's banned. Who cares if there's something similar? It's this specific card. So allowed in 1v1, but not in multiplayer, we have Biorhythm.
Which I have yet to see out of a deck.
Okay. Coalition Victory.
Haven't seen that yet neither.
Grizzlebrand.
Have seen that.
Reanimated, I would guess.
As a general.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Leovold, Emissary of Trust.
I've seen that a lot.
Limited Resources.
Don't even remember what that one is.
So, Chris, Limited Resources is just a 1-white enchantment, and it says when it enters the battlefield, each player chooses 5 lands they control and sacrifice the rest. And then players can't play lands as long as 10 or more lands are on the battlefield.
Okay, so it's very similar to like Balance or something like that.
In 1v1, that's great. You each go down to 5 and no one can play lands the rest of the game.
Oh man, the mono red player's in heaven.
Right? Okay, so keeping going on with the list, Painter's Servant.
Seen that one.
Oh yeah. Panoptic Mirror. Prime Time. Prophet of Krufix. Recurring Nightmare. Sundering Titan. Sway of the Stars. Sylvan Primordial. Trade Secrets. Upheaval. Worldfire, and Yawgmoth's Bargain.
So by and large, those tend to be cards that either make games maybe unfun in one way, like Worldfire, for example, or they're games that kind of auto-win in the right situation and are banned in Commander because of that, like Coalition Victory, although that one doesn't seem particularly egregious. But in 1v1, if you've allowed someone to get Coalition Victory mana or allowed someone to, get in position to cast Sway of the Stars, the attitude is that you lose the game. That's just how it works.
Yep.
So those almost all make sense. There's nothing too weird there. And then you have cards like Trade Secrets where it's like having 2 Consecrated Sphinxes. You can go back and forth with somebody. And a multiplayer, it lets 2 players basically lock out the other 2 players. 1v1, it's not going to be a problem because the other person's probably not going to take the draw to give you the draw to give you the draw. So that all makes sense. How about the other way around, Chris? You want to do these cards that are banned in 1v1 but are not banned in multiplayer?
All right, so the banned cards for 1v1 but not in multiplayer. And we'll hear what you guys think about some of these. Back to Basics. Derevi, Imperial Tactician. Baral, Chief of Compliance. Doomsday. Edgar Markov, thank God. Edric, Spymaster of Trust. Food Chain. Hermit Druid. Humility. Mind Twist. Moat. Natural Order. Oath of Druids, Strip Mine, Sensei's Divining Top, Sarah Ascendant, Survival of the Fittest, Sylvan Library, which is a mistake, Tabernacle of Pendrell Winter Orb, and Zur the Enchanter.
So you mentioned Sylvan Library you think is a mistake. Are any of those other ones, because this is a relatively new ban list, right? This has only been as of July, I want to say.
End of July, correct.
So is there anything on here that you think is a mistake aside from Sylvan Library and they think they will probably change on the road?
I think Sensei's Divining Top's another one. I don't foresee it actually hurting the game at all.
Okay.
The other ones I understand, like Sarah Ascendant, a 1v1 match, that's a 5/5 for 1 or whatever it is, or 6/6 for 1
with lifelink and flying.
Yeah, which would be obnoxious to get rid of.
Yeah. Natural order is an odd one. Is there some easy combo with a commander that where natural order becomes an issue?
I'm sure there is.
Okay, I mean it's a great card.
Because it's probably along the same lines of Food Chain and what was the other one? Survival of the Fittest. 'Cause natural order is green, right?
Yeah,
I think it's because it puts it right onto the battlefield. So
Okay.
your Bro Storm decks.
sure. I guess that makes sense.
Yep. Some of the Doomsday I understand.
How about strip mine?
Strip Mine would be really bad.
Okay.
Have you ever played a Gitrog monster deck?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I wasn't thinking of that because that's a relatively decent deck in 1v1, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a good combo base deck.
Edric, I totally get. Baral, I get. Baral probably is a miserable card in 1v1. I was a little bit surprised at Back to Basics, but I guess it makes sense in 1v1. In multiplayer, you have 3 other players that are probably going to be trying to remove it. There's probably a lot of decks in 1v1 that you play Back to Basics.
But still, Back to Basics, in my opinion, blues, unless you're playing combo base, blue isn't really that strong of a color in 1v1.
Okay. Well, it's odd that Back to Basics is on there, but Blood Moon isn't.
Yep, or Price of Progress or something like that. I mean, they all do similar things, so...
So you think there could be, like, the next revision of this list, we might lose a couple of these cards off it, like Sylvan Library.
Yeah, like Sylvan Library and Sensu's Divining Top, I do believe should be off the list.
Yeah, Humility's kind of a strange one, too.
Yeah, I don't know why on that neither.
Unless someone's like, I just don't want to do the math. Well, and
Right.
also, we should bear in mind, this list is based on MTGO, so perhaps there's some weird programming things with Humility.
It could be.
That's why it's banned. It's mostly banned because the format can't handle it.
For our listeners who do listen to this, and we keep talking about the MTGO is how we use it, I do believe that the reason most people use it is because it's actually supported by Wizards.
Yes. Yep.
So you can get judges in to rule on stuff like this, whereas if you try to hold a tournament with French rules, you can't really sanction it as a Wizards tournament type of deal. You can't get judges in, that kind of stuff.
So what other differences are there between this and regular Commander? Is command damage a thing?
Yes.
Okay, so it still isn't.
Doesn't happen often, but yes.
And is it still at 20?
21, yep.
21, sorry.
Yep.
Now, what's your starting life totals?
30.
Okay. I'm assuming because it's a 1v1 format, the person who goes first doesn't draw.
Does not draw.
Anything else that jumps out in terms of like rules or game setup that is different than Commander?
I don't know if this is a local rule for us, but how we use the Vancouver where you set your first 7 aside or whatever, take the next 7. If you shuffle your first 7 in, you get a warning and you're forced to mulligan down to 6.
So you're supposed to leave that first 7 that you're mulling off and not put them back in.
Not shuffle it back in.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I have seen it happen. And if he's listening, he knows who I'm talking about. Because he listens to us.
All right. So what is it about the 1v1 format? And Max has played this a little bit too, so this is an open question for you as well, Max. What do you like about this particular format versus like Legacy or something else that you could be playing that uses a roughly similar card pool? Why is this attractive to you?
Okay. I like playing 1v1 versus like Legacy or even Modern or something like that, mainly because I already play Commander. So, especially with the recent ban list changes, I mean, because it was drastically different prior to July. I could take one of my decks and mod it just a little bit and have a 1v1 deck. Is it going to be good? Probably not. But it is at least something where I can take Brago, take out the 2 or 3 cards that might not be good for 1v1 or good or maybe are banned out of the deck, swap it with something else, and I can go to a 1v1 tournament where, the old ban list, a lot of stuff was banned. All the fast mana, Soul Ring, all the huge mana rocks are banned, and that would mean...
Most of the tutors as well, like even tutors that weren't necessarily that great. Worldly Tutor was banned. I think Sylvan Tutor was banned.
Yep.
All the 1 or 2
any
mana
1 or 2
tutors
drop
were
tutor
banned.
was out.
But besides that, I do like it because it lets me kind of get the spike out of my system. Like, you can be competitive. You're in it to win it. You're not there. Granted, yes, I like to win a multiplayer Commander game, but it's not my primary goal. It's more to have fun and see how all the decks work against each other and together or whatever. But in 1v1, you're there to win. And you build a competitive deck. It's like playing Standard or Modern, but with 100 cards and no repeats.
So it's a way to get that out in a familiar format without having to do something totally different. Okay. How about you, Chris?
The way I look at it is I could come in every Tuesday, win every game I play.
Sure.
And what have I accomplished?
Right.
Nothing at all. because it's meant to be casual.
And no one's had fun that you've
Yep.
played against if you're playing
Yep.
your, because I mean these decks they're not the same as a CEDH deck, but they're the equivalent thereof. When you guys are playing these games, they're over in 6 turns.
Yep. And the big thing is that you're on an even playing field with everyone. Everyone expects you to be doing this instead of like on a casual night, that one troll's going to show up and he's going to be like, let's do this. And he's going to be like, oh, shroom combo, I win.
Right.
And you're just going to be like, well, that was a fun game.
Whereas in this, that's what's going to,
Yep, that's what
need
you're
to brace
expecting.
yourself for
Yep.
that. Right. And you're trying to do the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. So you're on it's even footing between everybody. And usually there's not salt. Sometimes there is. But compared to like a casual night and someone does that, there's a lot of salt that goes out. Whereas this is just like, yep, I lost. Okay, let's go on to the next round.
Well, Max and I did some streaming of one of the tournaments at the shop of this format. It was you and I did it together one time, then you did it by yourself one time as well.
Yep. Chris jumped in on that too.
Yep, during the finals because we got
That's
knocked
right, you
out.
did.
Make the top 8 every single tournament, and I can never make it to the finals.
Well, I will say this, though, like having done that, everyone's attitude was very professional. Like
Yep.
no one was getting upset. People were just playing. And there was even a situation with a guy who had a weird ruling go against him that wound up basically costing him the match because of a mistake that it would have been super easy to make.
A pro green creature, or a green creature that had pro black, and the black creature targeted it. And since he had already activated the ability, he had to
Put it on
target
his
one
stack. He had to target a thing. It
of,
wasn't
had to
an
target
option.
one of his own creatures because there was no other target.
And I think
legal target.
that was his only creature.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
So it cost him the game. But even like in that situation, he was like, "Well, we're playing to win. That's what happens." He
Yep.
he had a good attitude. He had as good of attitude as you could expect to have in a situation where you've just knocked yourself out of the tournament, essentially. So that was good. Like when everyone is playing with that same mindset, it really does kind of eliminate anyone's chance to be upset. I mean, you know what you're
Exactly.
getting into. Yeah, I liked seeing that. So how is it different from Legacy? Is it just much more freeform, or are there still kind of archetypes, or what would you compare it to? Like I keep thinking this more in terms of Singleton Legacy, but is it closer to Commander, or is it really a true hybrid between the two formats?
I think it's a true hybrid between the two formats, honestly. And I could be wrong with other people's varying opinions on it. But it reminds me a lot more of Commander over Legacy, because usually in this format, you're building your deck around your commander.
Sure.
There's a reason that you pick that commander. You want that ability, so you want the deck to function with it. Now you're just running all the good Legacy cards, pretty much is what you're doing.
Okay, so we talked about rule changes that happened last July, and that was a huge shift. Basically, like we mentioned, all the cheap tutors were banned prior to that. Any fast mana, including Soul Ring, was banned, and they basically unbanned all those cards. Obviously, that probably sped up the format, but what changes did you see in addition to speed after that happening? After that happened?
Mana Crypt is stupid.
I hold that opinion in multiplayer.
So turn 1 to Gila, and you just cry.
Oh yeah.
GG. So, but I did watch one of the games, like the first one that we had commented on, Max, when we were doing the streaming. That was one of the matches, or that was one of the tournaments before the rule change had happened.
Right.
So everyone was playing the quote unquote slower versions of these decks, and they were still wrapping up games in 6 or 7 turns.
And honestly, the last 2 tournaments that I played at since the unban of these cards, I never really noticed them making a difference.
I mean, it's a singleton tournament, so it's singleton format, so you still only do have one Crypt, one Soul Ring, one Mox Diamond, one Chrome.
It reminded me a lot of actually playing in a Commander pod. Yeah, that guy may go turn 1 Soul Ring. That's cool and everything, but he just blew his turn 1 and, sped that out, whereas I still have X cards in my hand.
Sure. Yeah, it was a fast format before. It doesn't seem like, I mean, obviously it's faster, but like I don't know if their goal to slow it up by removing the fast mana really slowed anything up anyway. So I think they just were like, well, let's
I
just
think
see
that's
what
probably why
happens.
they unbanned it.
Now, have you liked it more or less since that unbanning?
It's the same. I honestly haven't noticed anything aside from Mana Crypt. That card is so stupid.
In fact, you just borrowed mine.
I know I did.
Is Mana Crypt better than Soul Ring?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it? How about in regular Commander?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's close. It might be.
That's an interesting one.
The thing about Crypt that's so nice is you still have your colored mana available on that turn 1.
Yep.
Whereas Soul Ring, usually unless you're like playing a talisman or something, and even then, what are you going to do with 1 mana? If you drop your mountain or your forest, or whatever, and drop Crypt, you then have the 3 mana to play with, which is a whole different thing than it is, including the 1 colored, than it is just having the 2 Soul Ring mana.
But the biggest thing I've noticed in multiplayer Commander is if you go that fast, usually you lose.
Okay.
You got to
in
actually
multiplayer,
you got to play for the long game. You can't play for the fast game.
Well, this is a tangent, but since you mentioned it, I'll touch on it briefly for 1 second. The show will air on Monday, but we're recording this on a Thursday, and yesterday the Command Zone episode came out where they talked about data in regular Commander. And what they did was they went back through and watched 300, I think, games.
Oh, jeez.
And pulled data from those games and to see like how often did a turn 1 Soul Ring win you the game. And players who played a turn 1 Soul Ring lost a more frequently than players who didn't play a turn 1 Soul Ring. Like, so like it decreased your win percentage. Not that it's not great, but basically their determination was because it generates so much threat, people immediately start focusing you. So I mean, there's a lot of, we can go into their data, and there's some flaws with it, but it was interesting to see them like pull that data out and say the turn 1 Soul Ring, as strong as it is, people maybe overcompensate for that and hit you and make you pay the price for paying.
I've noticed that numerous times. Or the person who goes turn 1 Soul Ring actually falters. Like they just kind of go blah, 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 and they lose gas because they kept that hand that was supposed to be fast, and then it just kind of pitter-patters out.
Well, I've seen that with burgeoning, burgeoning usually, because someone will play turn 1 burgeoning, and then it'll go on the table and they'll play land, and they'll come back to them and they're like, oh man, I've got 4 mana, and they'll draw.
Nothing to do.
Well, they'll draw and then like tap it and play Mana Rock and be like, okay, I can play my commander, and they'll play their commander and have 1 card left in hand, and then it goes back around and someone bolts it, or whatever, hits it with a Doomblade or Path or something, their commander. And then by the time turn 5 rolls around, they've been just top decking and haven't drawn a land in 4 turns, and everyone's mana is now back to even, but their commander's still in the command zone because it now costs 7 mana to cast or whatever it is. So yeah, you can like go too quickly with that as well. So that's a kind of a big tangent here, and we're gonna get back to 1v1, because in 1v1, playing the turn 1 Soul Ring doesn't generate you aggro.
No, you already have aggro.
You have all the aggro. Okay, so how about playstyle? Like in 1v1, using these rules and this style, what is different in the playstyle? Speed comes to mind first of all, but what else is different?
Combo, I guess, is more prevalent.
Okay.
A lot of people are going to swear by combos the best in this format, and I completely disagree with them.
Aggro.
I'm not even going to say aggro is the best neither. I think it's more of a combination of control aggro type of deal.
Well, aggro is for sure relevant, maybe in a way that it isn't in traditional Commander. I mean, you can win with aggro, and I've seen it done, but it's much trickier. Watching you guys play this 1v1, aggro is absolutely something to be dealt with, and there's very easily, I mean, there's not really a tier list, but like, aggro decks are as good as anything else.
Indeed.
You're not playing a suboptimal archetype. Aggro is the real deal, because people win this format playing Zergo Helm Smasher, or not Helm Smasher, Zergo Bell Striker, who's just a 1-drop aggro body.
Yep. 1-drop 2/2 Commander. Let me tell you, I've done 19 points of commander damage with him before.
Yeah, watching you play it, I was just like, okay, I guess. And then watching it go, and like, oh wow, that's a lot of really fast damage.
Everything has haste, and everything else deals 3 to the face.
Yep, or more.
Anything else that's interesting about it, or different, I should say?
Decks are definitely more streamlined.
Okay.
Like, the deck that I'm bringing this weekend, my highest CMC card is 4, and I think I have 5 of them in the deck.
Yeah, I counted 5.
Well, for example, we talk about when Guilds of Ravnica explode, Crush Contraband is a card that we kind of liked for regular Commander, and I've played it. I put it in my mono white deck and have cast it and have been very, very happy with it. However, 4 mana for a removal spell, I'm guessing in 1v1 is just not an option.
The one to actually bring up another one from Guilds of Ravnica that I'm probably going to see 1v1 play is going to be Ritual of Soot.
Sure, the destroy all creatures
CMC 3 or less. Yep. That's definitely, I think it's going to see play.
And it's only 3 mana to cast?
4 mana.
Is it 4 mana?
Yep,
okay.
It's a damnation is what it is, but it's CMC 3 or less. So
that makes a big difference as well. So you're seeing much more aggressive stuff. People are leaning into like the Nature's Claim kind of spells much more than anything else.
Yes, because I mean, you want to be as efficient as possible with your spell, so you can still maintain, aggression back towards the other player.
So it's almost much more like a modern format where things like mana leak are really, really strong.
Yep.
Whereas in traditional Commander, for the most part, unless you're playing like really super tuned decks, you don't want to be hoping on mana leak to counter a spell. Whereas
No, you want hard counters.
in this format, that is a hard counter
Yep.
usually. Okay.
I think some of the strategies from multiplayer Commander don't come over well to 1v1. So the big one being like group hug decks.
Sure,
You
right.
I don't know how you're going to
Right,
win.
right.
You aren't. You're just going to help your opponent win.
But no,
Yep.
so like group hug is a thing in Commander, and it's just not here.
Right. And you also can't really sandbag. Like in a
No.
multiplayer game,
Yeah.
you can hang back for the first 4 to 6 turns, and then come out of the gate strong because everybody else has already chipped away at each other.
Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't do something so underhanded.
No,
but
not
I've
you.
Heard,
Whatever.
I've heard about other people doing that.
Where here it's you have to make sure your hand has a turn 1 play, so you can always be on the defense and then go back to offense.
Well, I would guess then you probably have to pay more attention to your curve when you're deck building too, because you can't afford to play land and pass.
There's a lot of digging deep into the card pool to find cards for this format.
I see when I've watched the blue decks, they are much more built around playing those cantrips to just dig down to whatever piece they're looking for. So
Yep.
it's all about just getting as far out in your deck as you can with those spells to find the thing you need.
Yeah, like the blue combo deck I played at the last one was running 29 lands, 30 lands, something
Okay.
like that. A bunch of mana rocks and a whole bunch of cantrips.
Yep.
So when you're digging with your cantrips, you're not hitting the lands. You're actually hitting more gas spells.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you've played, when you've done this in the time you've been playing 1v1, one thing I've watched you do is you've switched decks quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that because you have the flexibility to do that, or is that to adapt to the meta, or is that just because you like playing different decks?
It's more of a catching opponents off guard.
Okay.
Because at our local shop, I'm known for playing certain archetypes. So when I show up with something different, they'll keep an opening hand thinking, okay, I know what he's playing, I got this. And then it's like, okay, we reveal our commanders, and like, oops.
So someone's used to you playing mono red,
Yep.
aggro burn with Zergo, and then you flip your commanders over and you're playing, white
Teferi.
or something. Sure. Okay.
Yep.
So which of those decks have you liked the most that you've played?
Probably Zergo. To be
Zergo.
honest with you.
And that's the one you've played. You played Chris's Zergo deck in the
I have played Chris's Zargo deck, and it's really easy to pilot because it is, like I said, every creature but 3 has haste. 4 if you count Zergo,
Yeah.
and then everything else in your entire deck is just a burn spell.
Mm-hmm. It's very efficient for what it does. I just have so many good memories with it. One of the best memories I have is playing against a Gitrog deck that does hand disruption and forced me to discard Fiery Temper. I think it's Fiery Temper, the one that has when it's discard Madness, so you can pay the 1 red to activate it. And I discarded that and then shot him for 3, and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing that anymore."
So you talked about you adjusting your deck so people don't know what to expect from you,
Yep.
you personally. Now, one of the things I know, having watched, whether it's you or even pro players playing like Modern or something, they really are focused on knowing the deck they're going against. Okay, this person's playing Dredge, so I know all their cards in their deck for the most part, what the next play is. They're playing Burn, I know what to look for. Is that much less of a factor in this format because it's a 100-card singleton, or do you still have to kind of be planning ahead?
You have to be planning ahead. Like, so we'll just take Leovold, for instance. When you see a player flip a Leovold, you're going to know he's playing wheels, or he's going to be playing something to lock your hand out where you can't draw excess cards and stuff like that. If they flip an Animar, you know that they're going to be a hard combo creature deck. So then you got to think deep, okay, what are the best creatures that they could have in this deck? Well, they're going to have like Mana Dorks and stuff like that. They'll have Birthing Pod, that kind of stuff, just to combo off really hard. I'm trying to think of who else I've played against. Like a Prosh deck, you're going to be thinking of, you don't have Food Chain, but you have other cards that can combo with it as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's basic knowledge where, like, if you're a new player, I guess it would be a little bit harder, but being a seasoned player, basically what the combos are going to be or what really good cards should be in that deck, so that's what you should be expecting.
But there's still probably a lot of variance because of the size of the decks and the singleton.
Yeah. And sometimes you're just caught off guard. There's some weird cards, like I was playing against a Selvala deck once, and he played a Snow Crusher, I think it's called.
Oh man, I don't even know
which
what
I had
that
never
is.
seen. It's like an 8/8 for 2 mana or 1 mana or something like that, but you have to sacrifice it, or something about sacrificing it. Well, he sacrificed it to greater good to draw 8 cards and discard X cards, and I mean it caught me off guard.
Sure. Nice. Which is also like one of the things I like about Commander is seeing those weird cards that don't show up anywhere else. And I think the opportunity to have that also be part of this format is something that's fun. I mean, yes, it's more competitive, but you also get to see oddball stuff you don't see anywhere else.
Yep. Another big deck that you don't see a whole lot of in multiplayer is Mill.
Okay.
Which you'll see in 1v1.
Oh, yeah.
And the amount of Mill cards you can play in Commander is sick.
Sure. And Mill is probably much less dangerous here than it is in regular Commander.
Yep.
Like I've seen people sit with Mill decks in regular Commander, and based on what else at the table, I'm like, oh, they're helping everyone else. They don't realize it, but they're helping this person and that person win the game. And it's a much safer strategy in 1v1 because only one deck you're worried about, only one graveyard you're worried about, only one person's tricks you have to worry about.
Exactly.
And it's much easier to have that be one-sided than it is in multiplayer.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. I like that. So why should people who haven't played this give it a try?
So people who haven't played, I would suggest at least putting your foot in the door, trying it at least once. The biggest factor is you should have the cards.
Yeah, for
you
the
are
most part,
as a
you do.
Commander player, unless you're new, you should have a good chunk of these cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to get your competitiveness out, especially if you're playing in a meta where people tend to get a little, huffy puffy when you're playing hardcore.
Sure.
It also supports your stores. If your stores are throwing a tournament, it supports them. You may not win or whatever, but still like a $20 entry that goes to your store, helps it grow, so then you can get more cards for your Commander days.
And if you want to do like a Commander thing too, the fact that it has a official ban list supported by Wizards that's there, you can look it up, you can apply any rules you're trying to apply. Like you said, as a judge, you can figure out all the rulings. It's something for a store that seems like a pretty easy transition if they want to move into kind of a more competitive area. That makes sense to me.
Yep. I think it also helps with just better play later on when you are playing in pods, because you have to really know your ins and outs and what's going on, know the rules. And then when you go to play in your pod tournament, your pods next week or whatever, it's like, oh, I know how all of this works now. And you don't skip steps, or I wish I could call a judge sometimes on Tuesdays, but
So I'll ask you this, Max, because you're someone who primarily plays regular Commander relatively casually, which is such a weird way to look at it because one man's casual is someone else's whatever. You who had, Dramoka on turn 2 last week, or turn 3, whatever
It was turn 3.
Was it turn 3? Okay.
I was going to say, explain to me turn 2. I have to know.
You can do it on turn 2.
Yeah, that can do it. You did. You must have been turn 3. But you had it out
Crypt
quick.
Solaring Land is your turn 1. Second land, and it has to be colored mana. Second colored mana on turn 2, and you have Jamoka.
And then he had black plate on it like a turn or 2 later.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty disgusting. But still, like you really, like you don't, that's unusual.
Right.
And I don't like to talk too much about, like I said, one man's casual, someone else's competitive, but I would say your decks aren't designed to win before turn 10.
No.
Turn 10, 12 is probably the earliest for the most part, unless something freakish happens.
Right.
So as someone who plays that way, what did you think of your experience dipping your toes in the water of this format?
Well, having done some commentary with past tournaments helped a lot, just getting familiar with the format, so you kind of see the decks that are popular in our meta, kind of how the format plays. It's extremely fast. Like you don't sit there, and granted it is competitive, so you can't sit there and dirtle on your phone while your opponent's playing, because you have to be responsive. You have to be reactive to whatever they're doing. And so for my first kind of tiptoe into this, I borrowed Chris's mono red deck because it was the easiest thing to put to pilot.
It's self-sufficient when you pilot. It's pretty much draw. Oh, cool! Another haste creature. Play it. Go.
And you did well. You top 8 with that deck.
I did. I took 4th. Chris took 3rd that tournament. But it's the hardest decision with that deck is, do you lightning bolt the blocker or do you lightning bolt the face if you have lethal on board?
Bolt the bird.
Right? It is. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it lets me be competitive when I typically am not in regular Commander. It's something I want to get into more. I just need to make time for it.
Okay. Yeah, you seem like you had no problem transitioning back and forth too. Like you're having fun on Tuesday, you went and played serious, tried to win on Saturday,
Yep.
came back on Tuesday, and you had it out of your system, and you're like, okay, let's have
Yep.
some fun. Except for you put Blood Bond and Regnan Krav, so maybe, but that could just be you being a scumbag.
It is
that
just
that
me
could
being a
just be-
scumbag.
right?
I
One
thought
of the-
Twitter
one of the two.
voted you weren't.
Well,
Twitter's wrong.
make Max a scumbag.
Next time he puts up another one, I'm gonna create like 12 dummy accounts and just
Just
vote on it.
Max is a scumbag. Now, are you playing the tournament this weekend, Max? Or no?
I am not.
Okay. Because this goes every other month. They do a two-headed giant one
Something
month.
like that.
Next month is just regular 1v1, but it's the same rules, same decks for the most part. Okay. Well, is there anything else you think people should know about this format?
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
It is.
I've enjoyed watching it, and not that regular Commander isn't fun to watch, because it can be, but there's a lot more dead space in a regular Commander game. There's a lot more like gaps when people are taking their time doing a thing or whatever. This is not that. Like, you can sit and watch a game and it's just action.
Mm-hmm.
So I do really like watching it. It's a lot of fun. How about you, Max? Anything else?
Like Chris said, it's fun, and it kind of breaks you out of that normal Commander box of, okay, I can play whatever, but it lets you be competitive. It lets you kind of think about how you build your decks, because now you are aiming to win versus I just want to have fun for 10 to 12 turns. So it really kind of changes your thought process when building a deck if you build for 1v1.
All right. I'm on board with all of that. And I'm going to try it at some point. I'm in the process of moving right now, and it's winter and whatever, but I do want to try it because, like, having watched it a few times now, it's fun to watch, and I do want to. I'll throw a deck together just to do, not seriously, but like I'll play in a couple of tournaments because I want to get into it a little bit more as well.
Yep. Two-headed giant would probably be a good spot to start, because then you can bounce with your opponent and
Sure.
rely on your opponent a little bit. So it's more like playing a pod type game. So it's good. Put your foot in the water type of deal.
And I just have to find somebody who's willing to play like dirty combos.
Hi, I'm Max. How are you? I'm the scumbag.
I don't have to look too far for that, apparently. No, that's actually a good call. I should do that next two-headed giant. Maybe the next one they do, we'll try to get into it and play one.
They need to make a team trio so we can all be on a team.
There we go.
Mm.
Chris will get mad because we're
Hey.
goofing around.
As long as you remember the correct playmat next time.
Right, yes, exactly.
It was the weekend we got our new playmats,
And I forgot mine.
Dana brings the EDH rec one. I'm like,
I did.
come on.
Okay, for our sign-out question leaving the podcast this week, I mentioned Master of Cruelties kind of generating a little bit of salt this week. Soren Markov tends to do that as well.
See, Soren doesn't bother me that much. It's just like, oh, cool, you wasted your turn.
It's 10 mana, or 10 life, excuse me. But you can bounce back. Masters of Cruelties, you really can't bounce back. It's pretty tough to bounce back from. I've survived Soren hits at least for a few turns. Maybe
Yep.
I'm not sure if I've won off one, but like, it's not as inevitable as Master of Cruelties. But what cards, even if like those ones don't maybe feel bad for you, what cards do make you, like when someone casts them against you, you're just like, oh dear God, like they just make you feel. They just generate salt when you see them come down. Logically or illogically, I guess. It doesn't really matter. I'll take either of those.
Torment of Hailfire.
Max casted this week against me,
I did.
and it didn't bother me having it cast again. Like, I didn't like it. It wasn't. I didn't enjoy the experience or anything.
I cast it for like 7 too.
You did, and
Ouch.
I pitched 2 cards, and I think I took
You took the rest.
the rest in life. Well, and it took me down to
Killing range.
killing range. Yeah,
Because I think I killed you
The following turn
the
or
next turn.
But like again, like it didn't bother me to have it cast. But there are some cards that do. So I'm just, if there's any serious ones that actually do that to you guys, that just rub you the wrong way. Well, we've mentioned this in the show before. Insurrection. Insurrection is one that bugs me. I don't think it's that strong. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think anything about it. I think it's a perfectly fair card. And man, do I hate losing to Insurrection. And I
Because it's a
think,
crutch.
well, I think part of it too is because I've lost it a bunch of times against somebody who's not done anything all game, and they've just been like, oh man, I've got no, I'm just mana flooded. I'm just going to, I'm playing land, play land. And like legitimately, like they've done nothing. All of a sudden the other 3 players are like back and forth and trading body blows and things are happening. They just go, oh, I just top decked an Insurrection. So I win. And that's happened to me multiple times. So it's just one of those cards. Because of that, it's like a balloon deflating when I see someone cast it. So do you guys have any of those cards?
For me, nothing personally usually. I play all formats, so all the stupid stuff I see.
You see it, right.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, though, I'm going to jump on your wagon of people not doing anything because that stupid Blood Bond combo bothers me out of people. Because literally they sit there, do nothing. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm going to Demonic Tutor, and then I'm going to Vamp Tutor and play these two, I win.
Right.
It's like, really? Can you not come up with a smarter way to play or something?
My problem, right. My problem.
That is not directed at you.
No, I know
either,
that.
Max.
No, I feel the same way about the combo, and those feelings I direct more towards the people that do it on turn 5 and turn 6, not
and you can
turn 15.
And it isn't unfair. You can respond to it. Like I never feel like when I've lost a Blood Bond, and I've done it before, I never feel like the person did something that was unfair. It just feels like such a just cheeseball letdown, like anticlimactic way to lose a game.
Well, it's the way that a lot of players I've seen approach that combo. It's like, I'm just going to tutor it up and play it and go.
Yeah.
And if you can't stop it, I win. It's like, but your deck does nothing else. Is that all you're going to do is just tutor that every time we play?
I mean, you can't do it. You can't do this every game, obviously, but like there are those games where you at the end of the game make like 2 or 3 plays that make someone go, oh wow, or like make the table make that response, or like everyone like starts laughing because you did something crazy. Those feel so good. At least to me they do. When I win that way, that is the best way to win a game. When you win with like Sanguine Bond, and let's see, I have 5 mana left, I'm gonna play Exquisite Blood, and I can tap this to gain a life, and everyone dies. Like that does absolutely nothing for me when it comes to a win. Same thing with Torment of Hailfire, kind of. I've got a Cabal Coffers out, and the blue player's tapped out. I win. So it just doesn't provide me with any satisfaction the way like making that big splashy play or real creative move when the person's swinging in at you thinking they've got you dead and you instant speed tutor up that sudden spoil to the top of your library and then finagle it to draw it to sudden spoil their Alpha Strike and then kill them on the crackback. That kind of thing feels great. Yeah,
no, I don't want to harp down on combo players because I love watching combos, especially the combos that are very intriguing. Like it takes like 10 things to go right for you to just go infinite or something, and then you gotta sit there and you look like, okay, you're doing that, and you're just like, no, that was awesome to watch. But when it's these easy combos like that, it just
an easy one that's tutorable.
Yeah,
it just that always just feels bad to lose to that because I kind of then feel like, yes, you can start a new game and play a new one, but then I feel like I've just wasted the last 15 or 20 minutes doing a bunch of things that led to nothing because you just tutored up the other half of the combo piece.
Now I understand like I've never put the whole combo in a deck, but if I did, I would never specifically tutor it up until we're going on like hour 2, and I just be like,
absolutely, for
you know what? Let's just end this
for sure. How about you, Max? Any salt ones for you?
I have one card specifically, and that is Havoc Festival.
That's the
I play that.
I know you do.
It's a Return to Ravnica enchantment. You can't gain life.
Players can't gain life, and then at the beginning of each player's upkeep, they lose half of their life rounded up.
Okay, so it's like a serious clock then.
Yep.
You're just like the game's good. Someone's dying in 2 turns if this isn't removed.
Chris does play this in his Mogus deck, whether it's 1v1 or multiplayer format.
But it's meant to be because Mogus is an AoE deck.
Exactly.
It's meant to do just incidental damage,
Yep.
and I never really attack with anything.
And I get that, and it makes sense in that type of structure of your deck. But when the people are just playing like, oh, I'm playing red-black or red-black X, I'll just play this.
Yep.
That, it's just non-interactive and kind of cheap, in my opinion. Says the guy that plays Blood Bond.
right. Well, there's 2 I will mention here that are similarly costed, and again, I think they're both fair cards for the most part, and that's Expropriate and Omniscience. Expropriate lets you take, everyone votes, and either you steal their permanent, or you take an extra turn, and you usually pick extra turn on your own, so you're at least getting 1 extra turn, if not multiples. And Omniscience lets you cast spells for free.
Yep.
And again, it's kind of the same thing. You know what? They're absolutely fair for the most part. You got to spend what is it, 19 mana for Omniscience and 16 for Expropriate. That's exaggerated. I think they're both 10, I think.
They are
right?
both 10.
I thought Omniscience was 11.
And it might be.
Because I thought it was 8 colorless and 3 blue. Or is it 7 colorless and 3 blue?
Yeah, and Expropriate I think is 7 and 3 as well.
Omniscience is 7 and 3.
Okay. I think I always confuse, is it Enter the Infinite? That's I think 4 blue and 6 or 7 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And again, like I'm not saying they're like unfair cards. If you've got that mana out.
Expropriate is 9.
It's 9, okay.
7 and 2.
Okay. So if you've got the mana out and you've managed to do that, that's fine. That's perfectly legitimate. You've got to that point. But again, that's one of those are 2 cards that to me also, again, feel like just the air coming out of a balloon slowly. You can hear that slow deflation. And I don't see them that often.
Yeah,
but
my favorite part of Omniscience is when someone plays it and then they have nothing to do after they play it. You just laugh at them.
Right.
It's like, oh, you spend all that to get that out and you can't even do anything with it. That's cute.
So we will put that one out on Twitter and see if anyone else has any responses to cards that they see that really generate salt, whether it's earned or just like a thing in your own headspace. Because I think that's always interesting.
I have a feeling we're going to heal her about Tango Wire and Smokestack.
Particularly people who played against Scumbag Brago decks. Again, not pointing at any person in particular.
I quit.
that one game you played that Tango Wire, I just sat there and laughed. I'm like, this is fine, and everyone else was just irate. I'm like, well, this is awesome.
If you remember, once upon a time, I had Tango Wire and Smokestack in my Glissa deck.
I remember that Smokestack day. I complained about that a little bit.
Because I got it early, too. That was like a turn, like 3 Smokestack.
Yeah, and I was just like, I have no problem with this, but you can't do anything right now.
Right.
You can't kill us. So I'm just sitting here just twiddling my thumbs.
And I think I did win because I was enough ahead, but like it wasn't a fun experience.
It wasn't for anybody.
Nobody involved enjoyed that. So yeah, no, I took them both back out of the deck after that, shortly thereafter. And they didn't last long on your Brago deck either, Max.
No.
So, like Tango Wire is not bad.
No.
Because there's counters on it. It eventually disappears.
And
but Smokestack doesn't.
Nope.
Smokestack is just there ruining everybody's day. All right. I think that is it for this episode of Commander Central. We will be back next week. Until then, I am Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.